The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is sponsored by Two Fat Lardies and the generous donations of you, the listener. Thanks, everyone. Your support is really appreciated. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast, episode 253. Adeptus Titanicus, with hosts Neil Shuck and Mike Hobbs, and guest presenter Teras Cassidy. This show was recorded on the 3rd of October, 2018. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. 'Tis I, the Brummy Dwarf, otherwise known as Neil Shuck, and I am joined once again on our podcast adventures by the Welsh wizard himself. It is Mr. Michael Hobbs. Hello, sir.
Hello, Neil. Hello, Meeps. Hello, everybody. We're back on time.
Indeed, yes. After the, I don't know, taking a holiday.
I know. I told you, take it up with the missus. If you're brave enough, have a go.
No, I don't think I'm quite that brave. So, yes, so here we are. We're back on schedule. And for this evening, we are joined by another guest presenter. And we want to welcome from across the Atlantic. It is a friend of the show, Teras Cassidy. Hello, Teras. How are you?
Very good. Thank you very much. And you got fantasy titles, so I think I will take Friendly Mountain Giant.
Friendly Mountain Giant?
Yes.
Is that a proper character class?
Yes, it is, yeah. It's a new game I'm just working on right now.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
No. I'm doing very well, gentlemen. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be back.
No, it's great to have you, Terras, and we are in the situation that Terras, at this point in time, as a guest third presenter, because of his numerous appearances on the D6G, actually knows a lot more about what's going on than us two do. So we are leaning on his experience to guide us through the rest of the show.
Well, this is going to be a blank show, then, I gather.
Excellent stuff.
Yes, I will do my best, but I doubt that I will do any guiding. I think that we can make it together. You guys are super experienced now. Look how many shows you got under your belt.
We're kind of getting there. I kind of think we're just kind of, easing ourselves into it now. Yeah, we're just kind of hitting our stride,
In a few more hundred, I reckon we'll have it sorted.
Hey, I mean, once we get towards Dice Tower levels, then you can certainly talk, turn around and call ourselves experienced, but, oh, crikey. Anyway, so, welcome one and all to, this adventure in tabletop gaming. As I say, we are joined on, Terras, for this show, because we will be examining a bit later in the show, we're talking all about, well, a subject that Teras was chatting about with Mike, and I sat on the sidelines yelling encouragement the last time he was on, because we were talking. Because the last time we were talking about Epic, weren't we? The last time we had you on, Teras, if I remember right.
Yeah, by all means, that was awesome.
Yeah,
well, I really enjoyed.
It's back. It's back. Yeah, it's back in the shape of a new game. So we are going to be talking. Big Stompy. Well, it's not robots, is it? It's big.
They're not robots.
No, it's big Stompy war engines.
Yes.
Yes.
They look like robots.
or even mechs if you want to do.
I was about to say, and there's nothing to do with mechs whatsoever. Honest. Yes.
They were mechs before mechs were even invented.
I like the bit about stompiness because GW doesn't really produce. Well, if the Tau put out a Titan, I suppose they would. But even the Eldar Titans are kind of stompy and not super elegant.
Yeah.
Unless you go to the smaller ones.
Yeah, which fly.
But before we do that, we will be rude in the extreme if we didn't actually catch up with how things are going with you, Terras, and Geek Nation. So since it's been a year or so since we last talked to you, I think. So how have things been? How's it all been going?
It has been incredible. We have many tours that we're getting out. I just have a big release. I can't say anything quite yet. It's almost out, but I can't say anything quite yet. We've got a new kind of a partner, and we've got kind of a new direction. G&T is always about getting to a cool place with cool people, creating a community where we're there, enjoying the place that we're there, but then sharing our hobbies or our geek love of whatever we're doing, right? Mm-hmm. And lately, I've just been reconfiguring all my tours, making some small, very elite tours, like 15 passengers only, and those are going to be released shortly. But really what it comes down to is that we've kind of redirected our outlook, and we want to make sure that our tours are very much about that geek subject. For instance, I'll give you an example. So our UK tour is being rewritten. So our UK tour, what we did was we'd go to come in, we'd go to Salute, then we'd go up to Hadrian's Wall, then we'd come back to Nottingham and do Nottingham. So I find that what we were doing is we were adding a destination within the tour, and what we want to do is compress that. So instead, we'll go to Salute, and then go straight up to Nottingham, and then after Nottingham, then we'll go up to Hadrian's Wall. So there'll always be an extension from now on, but the bulk of the tour will always be really super geek immersive. So that's kind of our new direction. So, but we've got some really great ones coming out. We've got our samurai tour has never been better. I've done the third edit on the tour itself because my guide in Japan, my Japanese guide, she sent me a couple suggestions, and now we're not only going to go to the Sekigahara Samurai Festival for see the reenactors there, but then we're also going to go to Iga, where the ninja originated, and we're going to get ninja training when we're there, and then we're going to go to Kyoto and go into another festival. So that'll be actually 3 festivals on that tour. So that's one that's coming up. It's if you're interested in Japan, it's better than it's ever been.
I so want to go on that tour.
Yeah, that's you got a little bit of time to save. It's not till next October, so it's an amazing thing. It really is, and this one is going to be better than it's ever been before, quite frankly. Not to say that those tours in the past were bad, but this one is just improved upon. Basically, is what I'm saying. Yeah. So yeah, G&T's going really well. There's tons of tours there. I don't want to talk too much about that. I think we should get into the hobby stuff. But if you want to take a look at what we've got, Adepticon is actually sold out now. So if you ever want to go to Adepticon, that's a good one to grab. But it is sold out. If you our UK tour is there, Gen Con, tons of stuff and tons of historical stuff. And if you come back upon this release of this show, you probably will see even more, and you and I can talk about that. Between us, maybe we can do a little bit of a release together. That would be nice.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, so yeah. I mean, there are 2 or 3 that you do that immediately are going to go. Yeah, I'd like to do that. Yeah, I want to say the Japan the Gen Con tour sounds awesome because Gen Con is definitely on my bucket list. And I keep kind of going, we will make Gen Con one year. I will get there.
Yeah, both Gen Con and Adepticon are both amazing conventions. Adepticon is just really, really specialized in that it's a miniature one, and then Gen Con is just everything. And it's huge in scope, and it's a marvel, actually. You could literally spend all those days in the vendor hall alone at Gen Con and be smiling all the time. Like it's an amazingly huge convention. Very good, well run, great people, and just lots to do. So yeah. No, I would recommend both those. They're both awesome.
Cool. So how big is Adepticon these days? As far as like about number of people and that sort of thing.
I don't know. It's always strange on how they count these things. I've heard anything from 2,500 to 5,000, somewhere around there. I think they were pushing 5,000, but their hotel sold out this year, like in 4 hours or something like that. And and also their neighboring hotels. I think they had like 4 other hotels, and all of it sold out. So I suspect this one will be really big. Ask me that after April next year, March, April next year, and I'll tell you the numbers. But it's growing solidly. Again, awesome people that are running it. They really love their hobby, and they really know what to give us. The vendor hall is also amazing, and just the amount of painting seminars you can get and games. I mean, we have James Wapple, as one of our painters. He doesn't teach at Adepticon, but he's come out of kind of Adepticon retirement to teach the Geek Nation Tours people. Mm-hmm. So we have special things like that at Adepticon also. So it's an amazing show. Yeah, I think you would love it. Frankly, I think you would be like, wow, I have to come back every year. It's an awesome. It's awesome.
Sounds good. Right. So before we get on, I think we need to update on a news item that we shared in our introduction in the last show. We talked about the fact that we just got one of those horrible emails from Devil Pig Games to say that they were having financial difficulties, and some of the Kickstarters that both myself and Mike were involved in didn't look too good. Well, things have changed a bit, haven't they, Mike?
Yes. I'm completely prepared for this, Neil. Yes, a bit. They've got some backing to release Heroes of Stalingrad, so it looks as if that's going up into production, which is great news. We know that Heroes of Black Reaches, either in the distribution centers ready to be sent out, or in the case of America, is arriving sometime soon. So that's good. Yeah. The one that's outstanding is the tactical card game.
And the update today was not encouraging, was it?
Well, no, it's partly created. It's been partly manufactured, but it's blocked by the manufacturing company awaiting funds. So apparently they've already sent a lot of funds over, but these companies are now digging their heels in and saying they want full payment before they proceed. So they're looking to get that sorted. So, fingers crossed we'll get it.
What's the tactical card game? I haven't heard of that one before.
Right, okay, so what happened was, so you've heard of Heroes of Normandy, and the, what's the Cthulhu one?
Shadows of Normandy.
Shadows over Normandy. Yeah, so you're familiar with those. Okay, well, what they did, when was this? A couple of years ago, was this now?
Yeah, it's a while ago, yeah.
Yeah, basically what they did was that they went, okay, we'll take it up to company level and we'll produce a tactical card game, but we'll be playing at company level rather than playing like a tactical game with units. We're playing with companies. So it's a completely different game operating at a, higher level of operation.
Interesting.
Which funded really well. What was it, 140 odd thousand euros or whatever it was. And I mean, it's the same art. It's the same artwork. We saw demos at the UK Games Expo, not last year, but the year before. So that was 2017's Games Expo. They came along and they were demoing that along, and also things like that was when they first announced that they were doing Heroes of Blackreach with Games Workshop. So everything was looking fine, and then basically we had radio silence from them since about June. And this is when this is when and they'd run Heroes of Stalingrad in April, and at that point, putting two and two together, it looks like they were part of the reason they were doing that was to try and get over a funding hump. As with, I mean, we were saying last time, we've seen this sort of thing before with some companies that, they hit issues, especially if they haven't got their sums quite right.
Yeah.
It's always a bit of a risk with Kickstarters, isn't it?
It is, of course. Yeah. I've had a few that never came to fruition, and actually, it's funny because Mr. Hobbs just sent me the link, and I totally remember this one now. It's been a little while because I almost backed this. I loved the art.
Yeah. I think we both kind of went pretty much all in, didn't we, Mike?
Yeah, we did. So
yeah, we did. Yeah. So
yeah.
So yeah. I mean, okay, it's not as much. It could be worse, but it could be better.
Oh yeah.
We'll wait and see.
Yeah. But I mean, they're making some progress. So I mean, they've had to let a lot of the staff go, which is sad. But hopefully they'll get over. And because the stuff they produce is good.
Indeed. So it's interesting, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about Kickstarters shortly, because when we get to our confessions, the subject will come up again, I'm sure. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, it's time to enter into the confessional, and time to reveal what we've been buying.
From the makers of Chain of Command comes a tale of drama.
Mon capitaine, les Anglais are on the bridge.
Ah, so it seems we shall meet again, Captain Fondleo.
A tale of action.
That's it, lads. Give them another volley, they're falling back. Remember, 3 rounds a minute.
A tale of romance.
But Mr. Fondleo, you are so prominent.
For large skirmishes in the era of black powder, where the story ends, sharp practice begins.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered once again. This time, not in the sight of the Great Goering.
Thank God.
Indeed. But we're here, and yes, it is time to confess what we've been tempted by, and perhaps what we have fallen in what we bought in this what we bought since we spoke. Now, I suppose there's an advantage in the fact that actually when we're recording this, it's only been a week since we last recorded, so surely it can't be that bad. Can it, Mr. Hobbs?
I've only bought a couple of things. I've been good. He says in a very high-pitched voice. I bought some Reavers, Neil. I bought some Reaver Titans for Adeptus Titanicus.
Hang on a minute.
Yes, I know.
Didn't we have a text conversation? And didn't I ask you when the Reavers were first released? Say, oh, are you going to get some Reavers? And you came back and said, oh no, I'm not going to buy anything else for Adeptus Titanicus until I've painted the base set. Is this or is this not true, Mr. Hobbs?
Yes, that was true at the time. However, time is a fluid thing, Neil. And I'm a weak-hearted person.
Hence the confessional.
Yeah, indeed.
Yes.
You shock me.
Sinned.
You
I
shock
sinned.
me.
Only bought 2 each, but that was good.
They are nice, though. I will say they're nice models. They did a really good job. Now, I haven't really taken a deep look at the box. Do they come with like multiple weapons, or is it just one? Or what's their loadout options?
They got a couple of loadouts. They got they got two or three weapons plus the fist as well. So you get I think you get one extra weapon that you don't need, shall we say? So it's time to get the magnets.
Okay, so then that's actually my next question. How are they mounted? Are they easily mounted onto magnets, or?
I will tell you that, Terras, as soon as I open the box. Start building them.
So
you haven't opened up a box even. Oh. That it is sinful.
Yes, I've sinned. They're here. I'd rather they were here in my cupboard than sat on a shelf in Firestorm being sold to somebody else.
So, okay, maybe this is actually something we should be discussing in our main part of the show. But I was just thinking, so if I remember rightly, on the old Reavers, way back in the day when they used to be metal, you used to have 2 arm weapons and then a carapace weapon mount on top, which more. So it's the same configuration, yeah.
Yeah, exactly the same.
Cool. Okay. Well, we'll obviously talk about. I know. I know what's coming next. I have sussed your excuse. Your excuse is, I knew that we were going to be recording this show with Terras. So, in order to be fully informed on the products available, you just had to buy one.
Let's go with that.
I would almost agree, but he didn't open the box.
Well, yes, I was going to say that's where it kind of falls down just a little bit.
Maybe we should ask him to open the box on live podcast.
Hang on, you go and get it. Just open my cupboard and reach down. Oh, there it is. Hello, little Titan. Oh, it's all sealed. I've got to find the knife now. That's me just closing the cupboard.
See, this is also the thing of Mike showing off his toy of having a Bluetooth headset.
That's right. See,
it's not Bluetooth. It's a proper one. Oh, look! Oh, it's very pretty. Feast brews. All the armor on one, all the weaponry on the other, and then the bodywork on the third.
Right. Okay. Let's save this unboxing for an hour.
Yeah.
That's it.
Just fade me out, Neil, and you go about your business. I'll be back in 10 minutes.
Oh, dear. Right. Okay. So, see, I don't know whether to go next or whether to actually let our guest join in with the fun, and let's find out. Okay. I mean, Terras, with all this thing of
the last year and a half, okay.
So with all the with all this running Geek Nation and stuff, I mean, do you have much time for a hobby?
Yeah, you know what? I have to. It's funny because my life is terrible that I actually have to paint in order to bring miniatures on wherever I go. So it's actually part of my job in a lot of ways. Sometimes I paint stuff that I don't really want to, because I have to bring it to a certain tour or not. But a lot of it is just getting stuff from various suppliers, and because they want me to, and then I find niches for them anyway in my collection and for the tour. A good example of that is Warlord graciously sent me some Roman Centurions, Imperial Rome, from their Imperial Rome set. And I'm going to be using those for the UK tour. And so I'm going to paint up a unit, and I'm excited about that. But I also know that for for Ghost Archipelago, I can use them for that for the some of the people that are marooned on one of the islands. So I often do that. I often find uses for the miniatures I do on a tour for my own gameplay too, because I don't always play at home what I play on the tours. If you get what I mean, I'm always enthusiastic about each tour. I mean, each miniature that I paint, because I love painting miniatures. But sometimes I actually use them for different purposes back. So yes, I do.
Pretty reasonable.
Cool. Okay, so in that case, then, bought anything recently?
Have I bought anything recently? Oh my god. Yeah, you know what?
Is that a yes?
Yes, definitely. I've been trying to stay away from the Kickstarter. They're just completely evil. But I did find one that I really like. So I don't know if you remember or if you backed it or not, or even know about it. There was a Kickstarter called Twisting Catacombs, the Minotaur Horde. And they just had some beautiful, right? It's been a while. It's, I think, April 2018. I think now that because I'm looking at my Kickstarter, or else I would never remember that. But no, I'm sorry. That's when it's been a year prior to that. Anyway, so they're a little bit behind, but they're starting to deliver now, and they should be in my mailbox. They might even be in my mailbox today. So they've produced an amazing bunch of minotaurs, like just so tempting that I had to grab them. But just recently, they just released another one. I'm not sure if it's a live Kickstarter or not. Let me just click it. It's also Twisting Catacombs, but Lichmire Dungeon is the thing. 13 days to go, actually. And it's basically they're revisiting old style classic RPG fantasy games and creating miniatures for old style game war bands or bands or explorers, adventurers, I suppose you should say. Yeah. And they're all cast and all going to be in metal. So I thought that was really interesting. They're all hand sculpted, and they look really cool, full of character and life. And there's like a dwarf and an elf and a wizard and a barbarian.
Oh, was this the one they were talking about? The fact, it's almost like it's all the characters from Hero Quest.
Yeah.
I know exactly that. Yeah. I know.
It's really great. Like their miniatures are amazing. I mean, they're different than those Minotaur, because I think those Minotaur were not hand cast, and I hope they don't scream at me for saying that. I think those were generated via computer, but these ones are all sculpted, hand sculpted, and the miniatures are awesome. So really excited about that one, but it was one that I kind of didn't need because a lot of those miniatures I already have for my Frostgrave collection. But that's why I'm in the Confessional, I guess. That's where it's at. So I did that. That was one purchase. I've got kind of a new way of picking the games that I get into. I don't know if we want to talk about that, but I was tempted. We're the guys that I play with are big 40K fans, and I've kind of drifted away from 40K in a way. No fault to GWs or the producers. Just it's just not my thing anymore. I think I want skirmish games, and there's a big reason for that. I went through a lot of soul searching in the last couple of years, but I did get tempted because we are starting to play Kill Team, and so I did buy, which is very strange because I thought I would never not buy that many 40K models anymore, but I bought a couple of units of the new Space Marines, the taller Space Marines, and converted them into and I had a Death Watch box set that GW sent me. So I converted these guys into Death Watch kill teams, and the conversions turned out really well. You know what's really odd is that their arms, I used the Death Watch arms on the new Space Marines, and they matched. Like the arms did. I wasn't surprised at the head because I knew that they tried to make it so the head would match, but the arms match too. So anyway, so it was interesting. I know that you've had some, Neil. I think that you did a little venture. I'm kind of still unconvinced about it because I'll tell you a little bit about my new method of picking games because I'm trying to limit myself on what I do pick, and I want there to be an RPG element. So if there's an RPG element, if there's an experience element, then I'll be interested in the game, and that's the kind of games I want to play. That's pretty much what it is. I went through a lot of soul searching about what type of gamer I am, and I think I came down to the conclusion that I'm more of an RPGer than I am a massive army guy. I really love the RPG feel. So that's why my interest in Kill Team. We've only played about 3 or 4 games maybe, and we haven't added the RPG element, the experience point element yet. We're just trying to get through our heads around the rules, and so that's why I'm delving into it. As I want to give it a try because it does have a little bit of a RPG or a experience point system. And I don't know if it's enough for me. I find that Frostgrave, for instance, those 2 games and Ghost Archipelago, they both have kind of a really in-depth post-game, between-game build of your characters and a growth of the character. I'm not sure if Kill Team will have that, but anyway, so that's kind of where I'm at.
Cool.
Talking of RPGs, I kind of forgot something from my confessional.
Really? Shock horror.
I don't know why you're so shocked, Mr. Shuck. You're the one who pointed me towards it. I backed the Judge Dredd and the Worlds of 2018 role-playing Kickstarter.
I was just shocked that you missed it.
I completely missed it until you told me. Then 30 seconds later, I was a proud backer. So yeah, I backed that, and it just looked good.
Yeah. How can you not back something like that though? So
Yeah.
I mean, I missed that one because I'm glad though because I would have for sure booked. When did you do that? Is that just this week?
Just this week, Terras. You haven't missed it yet.
It's still live.
It's still live, and this will be my 3rd version of a Judge Dredd RPG.
Oh, you're.
I was going to say, hang on a second. Didn't you pick up
Yes.
Didn't somebody get you get a copy of a Judge Dredd RPG? Hang on. Didn't I hold a copy of a Judge Dredd RPG for you at Lardy Day?
Yeah, you did. And I did.
Yeah.
And I didn't buy it, and Frank bought it, and then Frank very nicely gave it to me. So I put in some money as well. Plus, I've got I've got PDF one of the Mongoose Judge Dredd one as well from that Kickstarter. So yeah, you can never have too much dread though.
You're an evil human being.
I am an evil human being, Terras, but you've always known this.
Yes,
I got. Do I
really
take?
surprised when I come on the show, and I'm tempted.
Do I take that we have the potential for live Kickstarter backing you?
Yeah. Yes.
Been a while.
Yeah, it's right in front of me. Yeah.
Tell you another one.
Now I have to about this.
Yeah. Tell you another one, Terras, just to tempt you away a little bit, is Warlord Strontium Dog game. That's well worth having a little look at.
I did look at that, and I actually read the read up about that game in War Games Illustrated, and it was tempting. It was tempting. I didn't see an RPG element though, so I think I was able to steer.
Oh no, it's got a lovely campaign system built into it.
Oh no!
Really good.
Miniatures are really great.
Yeah, minis are great. Great little rule system, campaign system built in.
Now you are you.
Yeah.
See,
this is fun, Neil. We should get more guests on that we can tempt with stuff.
Yeah. See, you know what? I would like to also say about RPGs is that unfortunately I don't have time to kind of dive into RPGs as much as I want. I do have a Dungeons and Dragons tour coming up, by the way, to Lake Geneva.
Yeah.
Just a little side note. Anyway, what I wanted to say is that the RPGs I don't have time to do very often. I do them at Gen Con. That's what I basically try to do at Gen Con all the time, because my guys here aren't big RPGers. So the RPG game, while tempting, is right in front of me. But yeah, the dog.
Yeah. Next.
Next. Okay.
All right. So what else?
Well,
I think that is my temptations, my confessional. Let me think. Yeah, those are the two big ones so far.
Okay, right. In that case, then it's time for me to fess up. Yeah, it's only been a week, and yeah, I've first off, got 2 new units for Star Wars Legion.
Another 2.
Because Boba Fett and the Scout Troopers came out on Friday. And I had actually kind of pre-ordered them because I mean, well, other than the fact of I'm trying to get away from this thing of making the mistake of not ordering a popular box and then not being able to get hold of it for 6 months. I mean, Boba Fett. Well, you got to own a copy of Boba Fett, and since I don't, and since I don't own, I know it's terrible that I do not own Imperial Assault. Call yourself a Star Wars fan, he says, aren't they? But so Boba Fett was a must, and Scout Troopers are my favourite Imperials. They are just, I mean, their armour is just cool. So I just have to get them.
That was perfectly reasonable to me.
Cool.
Are you playing that?
Let's just say, not so. I mean, I have played it. Not so much at the moment because it's kind of in the project queue. I was fully intending on getting it to the table, and then other things have it's on the list. It's on the list. I'm looking forward to playing more of it. Yeah. So that's a no.
I'm actually very excited about that game too. I'm very tempted with it, but it seems like it's really flowing. It really has that Star Wars feel, anyways, for sure.
Yeah, I really enjoyed what I did with it. I mean, I suppose with a lot of course, the issue that you got is that because of Fantasy Flight's release schedule, when the game first came out, there wasn't a huge number of different units available. Now, so for example, the Rebel Commandos and now the Scout Troopers are the first time you get Special Forces Troopers, and then we've got some more coming up in December. So basically, by the end of the year, I think we'll be in a state where actually you've got a load of decent options to have a varied force. So that's been that was kind of where I was thinking. Well, actually, by the time you collected all this stuff, so for next year, the hope is to play a lot more Legion. If you can fit it in the schedule, because there's just so much going on at the moment. So that was one. The other, I had a Kickstarter turn up. Do you remember? Because it's like 10 months late from their schedule release. But do you remember there was a board game, miniatures board game called Deep Madness?
Yeah.
Do you remember that, Terras? Did you come across that one?
No, tell me more.
Right, okay. Deep Madness. Imagine, if you think something like... I mean, it's a cooperative sci-fi horror game for 1 to 6 players. Lots and lots of miniatures. Think of it as a cross between... Let me think. A cross between it's the Abyss meets the Thing with with hefty Lovecraftian overtones.
So technical.
Lots of tentacles.
Yeah.
That's always good. Tentacles.
Oh yeah. I mean, there is an overabundance of tentacles in this. Miniatures look great. I mean, the box came and let's just say it was bigger than what I expected. Admittedly, by the time I'd gone through all the packaging, it wasn't. There was just. I just ordered the basic Kickstarter package, and there were three. There's the main game, and then there's like there were two boxes which consisted of all the Kickstarter extras that they put in. So it's a decent deal. Some really nice miniatures. So despite the fact that it ended up being 10 months late, because they were meant to deliver November 2017 was when they hoped to deliver. So say 10 months late. And yeah, it's caused some frustrations. But they got there in the end, and the product does look really good. They've done a really good job with it. So that was pleasing, but yeah, I looked at this box and kind of went, so where am I going to put all this? And then followed by, oh my word, am I going to have to add all these miniatures to my painting pile? And then just how many different tentacles can I possibly paint? But yeah, I mean, it looks a very interesting game, and the way they've tried to do it. So, although all the miniatures are autonomous in the fact of they are just played by a game engine. They try to make each one different. So you have to play and defeat each different type of creature in a different way. Sounds really interesting. So I'm really looking forward to getting that. I'm looking forward to getting that on the table. But funny enough, they are doing a reprint because they originally hoped to go to retail once the Kickstarter had completed, and they came to the conclusion that essentially with the distribution discounts they had to offer, that they bombed on us and said, well, sorry, we can't afford to put this to retail, which is quite an interesting, because that's a comment I'm starting to see a lot from game producers, because Monolith went the same way, didn't they?
Yeah.
And so there's a couple of other people started making that same comment. So interestingly, because I know some people kind of when they had made this announcement that we're not going to retail. I know certainly I was one that kind of went, okay, I'll order certain stuff, and then I'll grab the rest in retail. And then they went, oh no, we're not going to retail. And they said, okay, but don't worry, we're going to do a reprint. So they're doing a reprint Kickstarter at the end of October. Just when you thought it was safe.
So hence the confessional. I was wondering where the confessional bit was coming. So here it comes. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, as I say, yeah. It was a case of it's turned up. So yeah, I bought. I bought lots of stuff, and yeah, I think I might be getting the rest of it come October. So yeah, it's
I'm looking at the miniatures now. Actually, I got it pulled up, and boy, yeah, they look really great. I like that feel of demons where they don't look like Balrogs. They look like something that would just drive you insane by looking at them if they showed up. So yeah, I'm digging the minis. They look well.
It's a bit of a different take on things. It's not something that you've seen a lot of before. You kind of see a little bit in some of the miniatures that Chaos have produced for Call of Cthulhu, but I think they've really kind of they really went to town on the design of these things, and there are some which are seriously twisted.
I can't wait to talk to you after you've painted a few. I think you might go stark raving mad while you paint them. So that could be a show in itself.
Yeah.
Sit down with Neil while he paints the Cthulhu stuff and see how far how far he can retain sanity.
Yeah, it looks complicated.
I was good, Jan. I didn't say anything about you painting.
Yeah, that turned up. So Anyway, as far as temptations are concerned, couple of things to talk about. First off, Annie, Bad Squiddo Games. Hi, Annie. Yes. Yes, she is going to be launching another Kickstarter in a couple of weeks. She's just getting everything together because she's finally finished Freya's Wrath, and she's going to be doing a Kickstarter for the rest of the range that she's had for On a Big Geisha. She's been showing off some of the greens on a Facebook group I'm on, but even the I don't know if you've seen the flyer for it, Terras. So it's launching at the end of October. So it's Bad Squiddo Games. It's on their Facebook group at the moment. All that we can see on the flyer is there is a female unarmored samurai. There is a female ninja, and then there is what I can only assume is Shih Tzu. Or a large one, but a dog wearing samurai armor, which is
I think that might be an Inu, Shiba Inu.
Right, okay. So so that looks interesting. And what's the phrase? I tweeted that she had me at Feudal Japan, to which Ludo, bless him, replied, "No, she had you at Kickstarter." And the other thing I noticed, which is something I really wasn't familiar with, and I'm looking at these kind of going, these are just crazy. Right, there is a company called Punga Miniatures. Punga, Punga, Punga Miniatures. And they have been doing a sale on one of their ranges because they are just about to launch a Kickstarter, which will basically give the rules for this miniature range into 5th edition D&D. They are what they call Canitors and Felitors. So they are dogs and cats as fantasy characters. So if you imagine it's a dog as a centaur.
Awesome, do they ever look good? Oh my god, they look awesome. Sorry.
Have you seen it?
Go on.
Yeah, so you've got things like you've got a husky barbarian, you got a pit bull, this pit bull warrior, which just looks absolutely huge thing, a Doberman knight. So it's like it's the body of a Doberman, and then it's the front bit of the Doberman is stood up in plate armor. So basically, so they've done all these dogs as so they are like centaurs and an adaptation of 5th edition. So you can use them as characters in role playing. They're on sale at the moment on their website, which is pungaminiatures.com. Battle Dogs. Or Battle Doge, Battle Doge, D-O-G-E. They're worth a look. They are, a bit strange, but they are seriously nice.
So weird. Did you see the Poodle Warlock? That's so good. It's so weird that it's a centaur and a poodle at the same time, but it's really well done. Like, it's just extremely well done. I'm shocked, and that might be pretty tempting for my. I'm actually.
As I say, with your RPG elements. As I say, it is weird because it's like the back end. It just looks like a normal dog, and then the front end is a anthropomorphic dog. But it's like, well, dogs don't have 6 feet, but it's just a bit of a weird combination, but it looks
so weird but cool. Yeah, you know what? I wasn't going to say anything because I can't, but I'm going to tell you guys that I'm going to be releasing a Frostgrave tour here shortly, and I'm not going to give any details, but I should get these for that tour because they would be such a weird thing. Damn it! Another Kickstarter.
Gotta get them all.
So it's another Kickstarter launching in October. But that just looks cool. And funnily enough, they have a samurai. Oh, God, no. Yeah, loads of different things. Yeah, well worth a look. Punga miniatures. So that's my temptation. My temptations. Now, actually, while on the subject of Kickstarters, something I wanted to kind of bring you guys in on, because I got asked a question by crikey, I've got to try and find who it was online that asked me the question now. But somebody basically turned around and said, when I said, this Kickstarter has finally turned up, I got asked a question, and it was, here we go. It was from Martin Braun. Hi, Martin. And he asked this question. He says, don't you ever find that whilst waiting for Kickstarters to turn up, you lose that enthusiasm and excitement that you had for the Kickstarter? So that, okay, so you see the Kickstarter, you think, hey, wow, great, and then when the Kickstarter takes a year or 18 months or more to turn up, by the time it turns up, you're kind of like, yeah, whatever.
Sometimes I sort of think of it goes into sort of cryogenic storage until it turns up and it's just like, woohoo! I forgot about this. Hey, free game. That's where I look at it. It's a free game. A free game is just turned up.
Free game.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you paid for it like 2 years ago.
I'd have to agree with that. I mean, unfortunately, first of all, when I do a Kickstarter, I never expect them to actually get it to me on time, ever. I don't expect it because they're almost always late. If they get it to me on time, then that's cool. But I always assume that they're going to be at least 4 months late. And usually I back it, and then I'm like, when I get it, I'm like, did I even do this Kickstarter? Oh my God. And it is like free miniatures, and I don't think I ever lose enthusiasm for miniatures in the mail. When you get miniatures in the mail, it's always like Christmas. For me, it's always like Christmas, no matter what they are. But board games is another thing. I've backed board games before, and by the time the board games gets there, I'm like, I don't know if I'm really going to allocate time to that. So oddly, I don't know if this could be just me, that board games for me are harder to retain enthusiasm for, but miniatures are always great to get in the mail.
Yeah. So in relation to Deep Madness, I mean, it's that which is where it's like, well, hang on, it was say 10 months later than it was meant to be. But the only issue I've got is the fact of, okay, how does that now fit in with my current gaming schedule and what we're playing? It's like, how am I going to squeeze this other game in? I mean, the miniatures are really cool, the production looks really cool, it looks a really cool game. At what point are we going to find time to play it? And that suddenly becomes a bit of an issue. So wait and see. I mean, I suppose from at least the consolation is that at the very least it plays solo. But so I have a consolation. But yeah, sometimes it's like, how are you going to squeeze it in because your gaming schedule changes between you ordering it, and I can already hear Dave Luff going, quoting, dilution theory, and it's no good ordering more games. It just means you don't play what you've got as much as you want to.
But it's a board game that don't count.
I do have to say that your dilution theory there really has hit home with me. That's why I decided this whole RPG thing. I think that it's important that you do realize that A, you only have so much time to paint, and B, you only have so much time to game. And no, you got. I think our responsibility as gamers has changed, because back in the day we didn't have that much. I mean, we had 1 or 2 games that we loved, and no choice, and no choice of miniatures either. And now you have tons of choice, way too much choice, as a matter of fact. And so it's up to us to try to figure out kind of what type of gamer we are, but also what type of games do we want to play, and to limit yourself. I mean, it's hard to not limit yourself because there's so much awesome stuff out there, but you have to, or else you'll just have boxes and boxes that you don't get to. And I will say that there have been miniatures that I've got with Kickstarters that I have subsequently moved on from. A good example of that is I forget, Raging Heroes, the women one, right? I think it was like Imperial Guard type of women, and great models, beautiful miniatures. But when they got here, I was just like, I'm kind of done with large armies, and I ordered big on that one, like army type of size, and I just passed it on to my buddy and said, "Here, you do this. I'm not gonna get to it." And so, if you've moved on games, like if you've moved from, like my Kickstarters are pretty much all fantasy now, because I love that whole, like I was saying before, Frostgrave, Ghost Archipelago thing. So I can find a niche for them on those 2 venues. But if I ever move on from fantasy from those 2 games, I could see me going, when I get a Kickstarter, I'm like, oh, well, I'm no longer doing that anymore. So bye-bye. So it really depends on what circumstances and what games you've moved on from. And that sucks because then the Kickstarter really does have no value for you anymore.
Yeah. Or I just use it as an excuse to revisit, to try and revisit things.
Yeah, that's true. For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I think we're about done with confessing stuff. Let's get out of here, shall we?
I got one temptation for you if you want.
Oh, sorry, yes, I was missing temptation. Yeah, go on then.
That's okay. It's a book. It's a book on the on pen and sword called War Games, Terrain and Buildings, which is on pre-order. War Games, Terrain and Buildings: The Napoleonic Wars by Tony Harwood, and it's £12. It looks very, very nice.
Oh, right, okay. So this is about building, scratch building.
Yep, it's all about scratch building, Napoleonic stuff. So lots of photographs of buildings and guides on how to build it. Perfect for you, Neil.
I was going to say. I mean, at the point where I'm thinking, I want to get into scratch building, and one of the things I'm thinking scratch building is stuff for Forager for Peninsula War. Oh, thanks.
Yeah, that's okay.
So with that and plus the touching history book I've already got on that would be absolutely ideal.
Yeah, I think Tony Howard. Yeah, I think Tony Howard's done a couple before. I just remember didn't he do one about winter terrain?
Oh, it's that guy.
Yeah.
It's
Damp Panzerwagen, known as.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that book was beautiful too. The snow one.
Yeah. Yeah, the winter terrain. So I think it's a follow-on, but it's now Napoleonic.
It's Napoleonic. Oh dear.
Perfect. Thanks,
Anytime, man. Yeah, much appreciated.
Happy to help.
Excellent. So that's pen and sword. Okay, what's it called again?
It's called War Games, Terrain and Buildings.
War Games, Terrain and Buildings. Okay, yes. It sounded man looking up things on the internet. Yeah. Okay, let's
take a break while Neil has a little.
Yes, and by the time we come back, I may have clicked a few buttons.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, Neil here. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you are, I'm wondering, would you consider becoming a patron of the show? For as little as $1 a month, you can help support us in what we're doing with the show. For that, you can get access to a monthly question and answer show, and that will also allow you to ask questions. If you pledge more, you potentially get bonus podcasts. And you never know, you might even get invited to be on the show yourself. If you want to know more details, please follow the link to our Patreon page, which is on the front of the website. That's www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. Thanks a lot. Okay, so it's time to chat about what we've been up to hobby-wise, games we've been playing, stuff we've been up to. Shall we ask our guest first, shall we? So Terras, any games of note you've been playing recently, or anything you've been particularly up to as in painting or what have you?
Painting, yeah. I've played. Like I mentioned before, we've been playing Kill Team, so that's kind of interesting and different. Also, I've been hobbying a little bit of Kill Team too, so I've got 10 Space Marines that I'm working on. Those are going well. All the builds. You know what? I really enjoyed building those miniatures. Those Space Marines went together really well, and all the Death Watch kind of weapons are so awesome to get into. So that was I really enjoyed the build. They're primed and now they're sitting on my desk. So we'll see how long it takes for me to get back to them. So it's painting Space Marines isn't always super fun sometimes.
It's never easy. And it's always best to leave primer for a good couple of weeks or so. Let it really dry out and harden. That's what I say.
It might be a couple of months by the time I
get there. Even better.
Then it'll be like diamond, won't it?
Yeah. A couple of years is optimal in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Hang on. You're not hinting at this tray of primed Normans that I have above my desk, are you?
I wouldn't dare mention your Normans.
That's good. That's good.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed that build. And Death Watch is not too bad. The only problem is that it's black, so that's always not always fun to paint. But I think it'll go well. There's only 10 of them, so I don't. And there's a lot of variation between. Well, there's complete variation between all the miniatures. So I think it'll be a fun painting project.
Yeah. So you mentioned you play Kill Team 3 or 4 times. So I mean, how are you finding it?
I don't know yet. Okay. So we talked briefly on Terras' philosophy on picking games about RPG. But you know what? I think it's starting to be a dice thing too. I think, and a lot of people hate me for saying this, but I love a D20. I love the swinginess. Each time you roll a D20, it's an adventure. You never know what the hell's going to happen. Right?
Adventure and randomness.
Yeah, it's an adventure. Like there's so much that can go on with a D20, right? And I really like that. I like that a lot more than I thought, because I came back to Kill Team after we were playing Frostgrave for I don't know, maybe a year, and not playing that many. I mean, I played a lot of 40K because, again, I travel a lot. There's a lot of times that I would be playing 40K. But back at the ranch here, I would hardly ever play 40K. My buddies play it. And so I've only just recently started to play Kill Team. And the D6 just is so predictable. It's like, when people start talking about statistics when they're gaming, that just drives me crazy, because I want to be immersed in the game. I don't want to hear stats. I don't want to hear any number play. I get enough of that when I'm working. I'd rather just have be immersed in that 40K world if that's the game that I'm playing, especially if it's supposed to have an RPG element, right? Yeah. But I don't know, that D6 there's something that kind of gets me that I'm not sure if I like it anymore. Basically, and I'm not saying that D6 is bad. D6 games are bad. If you're digging a D6, that's cool. If you like that whole if you like predictability, and even if you like talking about statistics, that's cool. It's just not something that I like. And I really love the D6, D20. So anyway, you asked me about Kill Team. So I'm about 4 games in. I'm not completely convinced, and I'm not completely convinced about the return to the D6.
Yeah, I must admit, similar sort of thing, because I mean, especially since I've been away from Games Workshop systems for quite some time. I mean, this is quite ironic considering what our main feature is going to be. But,
Yeah.
But yeah, and then returning to that 40k mechanic of, roll to hit, roll to wound, roll to save, and just going through that, and the amount of times you end up rolling a d6 to essentially no effect. And by the end of the evening, it was all, because there are, a lot of the newer systems are much more streamlined. And whether or not it's, so whether it's, less dice rolling, opposed dice rolling, or what have you. So there's, so it seemed A, bit clunky, B, very dice heavy, and half the time it was dice heavy to no eventual effect.
Yeah.
And that became frustrating.
I could see that, because then not only do you have to deal with, I mean, I think their purpose of making it no effect, because there's rules in the game. I don't know how deep you guys went into Kill Team rules, but there's the rules that if you get a flesh wound, you keep on playing, right? So you can have a miniature take multiple hits and still remain in the game, especially because of saving throws and the whole bit, right?
Yeah.
So, and that includes both melee and shooting. So miniatures stay in the game longer. And I think that's a mechanic they chose because in 40K, miniatures disappear really fast. So they had to have something to mitigate that. But I understand why that would be frustrating. And I see why that would be frustrating. Now, here's my counter to that, because I don't know yet. My counter to that is, if you have, because I think it's 3 characters that you can make specialists in, that you could advance in some way and have an RPG feel to it. So per game, and you can change those up and get everybody to advance, basically. I think anyway. When you have a character invested and it's a campaign, do you think that might change your perspective on it? I'm not saying it will. I have no idea, because it's just a question, because I have to find that answer myself. I haven't yet.
I think you probably will if you're investing time in a game and a character comes along and gains the experience and gets better and everything. If that character then dies in the game, it can be quite I've got to start again now. So you tend to find people will hold their better characters back and use the sort of minions, shall we say, to go off and do the stuff. And that's when the dynamic of any sort of campaign changes, is when you get that emotional attachment to a character.
Yeah, I think that's when the game comes alive, right? So perhaps, Neil, maybe that's what you should try that, and maybe Kill Team might. I don't know. Maybe Kill Team might come alive.
Then, yeah, possibly. But as I say, that was, having played that, I think I said in first impressions, it's like, but when we talked about it, I kind of went, it's kind of scary, but it's like, am I done with 40k? Because I was looking through the rule book and kind of thinking, there's nothing here that really grabs me. I mean, it's a great product. It's a fantastic product the way they're doing it. I think it's really cool. But it's like there's nothing that grabbed me to say, I've got to leap in and do this. So it's a weird one. I'll have to wait and see.
I find it fascinating though that you basically are talking about the D6 too, though, right? Because that whole hit, wound, save, that does become really annoying after you play games like Frostgrave, where it's all in one dice roll, right? You're like, that's it. You roll once, that's it. It's so elegant, you know what I mean? And there's so many. There's an elegance to that type of game. That's it. Then that's what I found. It's a case of it isn't just the theme of the game or what have you. It's the fact of there are so many more elegant solutions to the way people play games these days.
And so, going back to that, I mean, I realise why they have kept with that mechanic, because it's what people who like Games Workshop games are familiar with, but surely there are better ways. It will be interesting to hear what they've done with it in when we come to our feature game. So let's step away from that one for a minute, shall we?
By all means.
Anyway, yeah.
Anyway, we were talking about hobbying, so let's go back to that.
Hobby. Yeah.
So, I've also been painting actually some Frostgrave miniatures, straight from North Star Miniatures. They're cultists. That is a great kit. I only just picked it up fairly recently, and doing some nice paint jobs with purple and white highlights. It's just so much fun. I love painting purple for some reason. I'm laughing while I'm painting purple. They're going to be led by a Reaper Necromancer that she has, how do I say, minimal clothing on. So it was interesting because I've never really painted anything like that before. So that's kind of an interesting thing. I figure she's dead, so she doesn't have to worry about the snow. Also painting a miniature barbarian for Frostgrave for my warband. And she is kind of like a Red Sonja type of outfit. A little bit maybe more muscular than Red Sonja is. She's like, and that's from Mears. And finally, well, hang on a second. I'm going to go back a little bit. I'm also, of course, painting the Warlord. So we can talk about that in the feature present part of the podcast. Yeah. But and I did a swamp monster type guy. He's big. Let's see if I can get the name because it's a Mears model too. Marnarak? Boy, Mears has some strange names. But anyway, he's a bog monster, basically. The reason why I brought him with snow on top.
So I've seen those. They're lovely.
They are way good. I couldn't believe it. So what I've done is I painted the swamp monster guy up as if he is coming out of the mud. So really browns, grays. I blended the paint right on the miniature itself. It was a big enough miniature to do that. So browns, grays, mud colors, greens. Gave it a little bit of a wash of green here and there, so it brings into some life into it. And then I applied these snow tufts all over the place and finished the model with precision ice and snow effect, and it looks tremendous. So I know that might sound a little cocky, but boy, you put that snow on top of that grass, and it just totally looks like it should.
Nice.
Yeah. So,
cool.
Yeah.
So use the tufts. Here's my advice for the hobby: is use the grass tufts. But if you're going to do the snow, buy the snow grass tufts, but then add a snow effect on top of the snow effects. The snow itself, and it'll come alive, because you'll get this instead of how you put the tufts down, you have the snow just kind of on top of the tufts. Well, if you have the tufts all together and you put the snow effect on, the snow effect kind of goes on top of all the grass. So if there's any spaces, you'll get snow in between the spaces. So it really blends all those tufts together.
Nice. Oh, yeah. And very handy for Frostgrave.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love it. I really do love it. It was actually snowing here yesterday, by the way. So yes, I do love it.
I suppose I'll go next and just say, okay, what have we been up to in a week or so? Well, I've actually managed to get some paint on some miniatures. Admittedly, it's only primer, but I have actually managed to prime the mobs that I got at Chilcon for Gangs of Rome. So that's kind of next is to kind of get them all done. So yeah, early days, but at least at least I'm getting there. Gaming wise, a couple of things I did. One thing I forgot to mention last time, which I just wanted to revisit a bit. We had another go at Imperial Assault Legends of the Rebellion, I think it is. Legends of the Rebellion, Legends of the Alliance, one or the other. Yeah, the app based one. again, really enjoying that, although we did find a bit of a quirk with it. Now, this is just based on... Now, this is kind of where you find out that somebody has too many miniatures in their collection.
Hi, Dave.
Yes, because our mate, Mr. Hickman, has got pretty much everything for Imperial Assault. When it starts generating, for some of the scenarios, you have you obviously have you have some set models that you are, or set bosses or what have you that you're going to meet as part of the scenario.
Yeah.
And then it does random generation for some of the other things you come across, and you do get a few weird combinations. Like, so for example, we ended up in the last room, in the last kind of area of the complex, of the Imperial complex we were in. We were fighting the general with the special ATST. I can't remember his name, but it's
Yeah.
Now he was the boss. He's the boss in this particular scenario, so that was fine. And then we had an E-Web gunner, and we had an Imperial officer, and then for some reason we ended up with a Sandperson Bantha rider.
Okay.
Which just did, yeah. So most of it was kind of, it's Imperials, it's Imperial. What's that guy doing there? So, on the whole, that thing, the whole online scenario thing works, but it does throw up some weird stuff when it does random monster generation, and so I think the one thing they could possibly work on is that rather than just picking anything randomly from a player's collection, they should maybe, depending on the scenario you're playing, at least limit it a little bit.
Yeah.
To turn around and say, okay, your random selection should be from these codes, depending on what's available.
Maybe tag it somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Other than that, it plays great. That plays great. The other thing we did was we played, finally got to play a game of the reprinted Escape from Colditz.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, you'd think.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, quite, yeah. We started playing, and within about half an hour, I mean, the last person to kind of play the original version was Mr. Luff. And he was saying, we're doing something wrong. This game used to be much more fun than this.
Yeah, but he was 8.
No, he was on it. He played it about 4 years ago, and this was the original 1970s version that he played, and he said, "Oh no, we had a hoot," which is funny enough. That's why I bought the reprinted version. And I mean, I've looked through, and afterwards I've been looking through some of the reviews that people did, and thinking, what did we do wrong? Because it just seemed that the game, it was far too easy for the German. I feel if I was playing the German player, it seemed to be far too easy for the German player and far too difficult for the Allies to even come together in any way, shape, or form to try and escape. It's a beautifully produced game, which I'm just thinking. At the end of the day, are we just looking through rose-coloured glasses at what was, nostalgia-wise, was a great game at the time, but it suffers massively from roll and move mechanics and a couple of other issues that now, we are in a golden age of board gaming, going back and starting to play that sort of thing again. All of a sudden, it's like, it's just, it was something massively different in the age of Monopoly. Where we are at the moment, I'm really not so sure. So So that was a bit of a downer. It was like, I mean, you know, Osprey did a beautiful job in reproducing it. The artwork's great, all the history's there, and everything. And we just played it and went, you know what? The gameplay, not really not sure. So we said we might go back and revisit it, but I'm not sure. I don't know.
Okay, that's a shame.
That does suck.
Yeah. I was gutted. I was absolutely gutted because, especially having and I'd never played the original game, so I did so many good things about it, and we got like an hour and a half in, and it was like, and we were all kind of going, really? Is this it? Really?
Has the rules changed? Like, is it a reprint or is it a revision?
They have amended the rules, and now they have also produced the original rules in the same rulebook. Now, the rules they produced are meant to kind of make the game, meant to be like clarifications and make the game a little more accessible. But we're kind of thinking, in all this time since it originally came out, you know, people have house ruled stuff and put loads of different bits and pieces in, and those original 73 rules have really evolved. And it's, you know, if you go around on the web, there's 2 or 3 people that have done, the new PDFs and with different variations and what have you. And it's quite interesting that even on Board Game Geek, you kind of look at the people who, the game designer came on because people were talking about, certain issues they had, especially with, blocking issues, being able to block off certain areas of the castle and various other bits and pieces. And the game designer basically came in and said, well, if it doesn't quite work for you, just experiment with stuff and change it to make it the game that you want. Which I thought was interesting. It was an interesting comment.
Yeah, but if the guy wrote the rules 40 years ago, he probably doesn't want to go back and do a rewrite for a bunch of people who just bought a game now. I'd probably be the same.
Yeah, very true. Very true. So nostalgia-wise, they've done a great job. I'm just kind of thinking, I really don't know. And especially when you've bought the game. And, you're thinking, have I just bought an absolute clunker? So we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
So that was me.
Cool.
And games have really changed from back in the day. I was just reading a Dungeons & Dragons module, and it's full of, and just feel free to go ahead and alter it the way you want to alter it. You know, it's not like that anymore. Not to the same extent.
That's true.
No, yeah, because I mean, one of the big things these days is converting all the old classic modules into things like 5th edition and so, isn't it? There's several companies doing that. I mean, I've not got any personal experience yet, but I mean, have you played any of those Terras? Does that work?
The new one? You mean the new ones versus the old ones? Is that what you mean?
Well, as in they are. I mean, you had companies taking some of the classic
like Good Games and all those guys.
Yeah. Some of the and then converting it into and bringing it forward.
I always see them super busy at Gen Con. People are buying them all the time. I've played almost every iteration of D&D, but I haven't played old modules in those iterations. So I don't think I could comment very well. I'm not sure how they work. I could see it be problematic, but I could also see people, especially if it's old gamers. If you're old gamers, you got a Dungeons and Dragons module back in the day, and now you can play it in the new. I think you just kind of look at all the strangeness and kind of just look the other way, depending on how well they've done it too. I mean, maybe they've done a stand-up job. I don't know. I don't know if I can comment correctly on it.
Okay, I just wondered.
I personally would refer anybody who's interested in that to the latest Grognard Files episode 23, where they talk about their playing of the Storm King's Thunder campaign, which was a sort of reworking of the classic Giants series of modules. And
yeah.
One, two,
Oh, right,
three.
yeah. Do you want to three? Yeah.
So, and that's a very good podcast, well worth listening to. Hello, Dirk.
Which podcast was it?
That's the Grognard Files. Terras, don't tell me you don't know anything about the Grognard Files.
Oh,
Oh,
I just wanted you to see it a couple times.
the Grognard Files.
So you got another time to do a shout out.
Oh, definitely. Yes. if you haven't heard of it, go and just subscribe. It's one of the best podcasts out there.
You're not involved in any way.
No, not at all. I just, I love it. And it cost me so much money, it's untrue. It's got me back into RuneQuest and, multiple other games.
I'll give it a go.
Solely responsible for Mr. Hobbs' renaissance back into RPGs.
It is, yeah. It really is. Which is, it's been a lovely a few months. I've really enjoyed buying lots and lots of books. And one day I'm going to read them all.
You need to come to Gen Con with me, so you and I can go. You and I can go and play RPGs for the duration.
That sounds good.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Anyway,
Cool.
Hobby chat time for me. Quick one.
Indeed.
Yeah. Because we're definitely waffling on too much here. Right. I haven't done much painting. I've done no gaming at all. It seems I've organised loads of games I was going to take, over the last week, and they've all fallen through. So I've been carrying on with my Lord of the Rings elves, and I've been painting up some cavalry. So I've done the horses, just got to do the riders now. And then I'm going to make a start on the wags next. Because that's the next army I'm doing.
Oh, yes, by popular demand.
It's warg time. So I've got 50 wargs to paint. To which Matt from Glenbrook Games went, "Is that all?" Thank you, Matt.
Teras, you might have missed this. Matt and Ralph, two good friends of the show, and they put on a game at the other Partisan. Basically, it was Attack on the Forts of Eisen, with Rohan and against orcs and wargs, and the amount of miniatures they had on the table at that point was scary.
That sounds awesome.
Oh yeah, it was an awesome sight. Yeah, I mean there's a couple of hundred riders of Rohan.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I think Matt's got about 250.
Yeah, it was. So basically, you had an infantry battle over the ford going on in the middle, and at either end you had rolling cavalry battles between Rohan and Warg Riders, and Matt's got a serious collection of Rohan and wargs and stuff. It's a sight to behold.
Well, if you're gonna go all the way, like that's the time when going hard just really pays off.
Yeah,
right.
And Matt is a professional figure painter. That's his job. So he paints all day for other people, and then he'll just turn around and go, "Oh, I just knocked these up for myself," and you'll put like 30 odd cavalry on the table. "Oh, I've just knocked these up today." I'm just like, that is a month's work for me. And that's what he's just done in his spare time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So is that it, Mr. Hobbs?
Yeah, that's about it. I think
all you've been up to?
Yeah, it's been been not much happening. Other than the challenge. I've done a bit of the challenge.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, let's talk about that in this show because I haven't got a lot to do. Yeah. Okay. So to explain to us, we've got a challenge going on where we basically picked a project to do. So, and we are reporting back on it. And, a bit like the old Tale of Two Gamers or Tale of X number of gamers that GW done in White Dwarf and stuff. So we both picked a project and we are reporting back regularly on it.
And is there like a timeline or just get it done? What's the other rules?
Till we get fed up and bored. It really is.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah. A timeline with my painting speed? You're going to be joking. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We'll cover that. I've got just a very quick thing to cover. The only thing I would say is that I'm going to put. By the time you've seen this, hopefully, you will then see on the blog. Because I've got Tim Eagling as very kindly given me permission to put some photos of the stuff that he's been doing. Scratch building on the blog, so I know we were talking about that a couple of shows ago as that being my inspiration for doing scratch building. He has done a fantastic job with several buildings, so go check that out on the blog. One of the only thing I've got to report is that I'm still kind of gathering stuff for it. So it was a visit to Hobbycraft at the weekend. So just picked up a couple of bits and pieces, and then the one thing I was looking for scratch building. I was looking for window frames, and specifically actually for round window frames, because, square window frames are easy enough to do, but round ones? Right, okay, there's a company I came across called Calico Craft Parts. That's C-A-L-I-C-O, calicocraftparts.co.uk. They do loads of different kind of MDF cutouts for various different things, but they also do some building kind of blanks, and as part of that they do windows and doors. So the doors are up to about 40-50 mil tall, and then they have windows, and most of the windows they do are either round or arched. So they fit in really well. Because I've been looking for it around, and companies like Warbases and stuff do several windows. Most of them tend to be square window frames. And I was looking for something a little bit different. So Calico Parts, they do a set of I think it's 20 windows. Window frames on an MDF, punch out on an MDF for $3.99. Sorry, $2.99 plus postage. Oh. So really cool, really nice. It's worth getting out there and just not just looking on wargaming stuff, but looking around at other crafts and stuff to see what you can pick up. So. But that's all I've done. I'm just kind of resource gathering and stuff at the moment. However, Mr. Hobbs, you've done a bit more on yours, haven't you?
Yeah. So I'm doing my Napoleonics in 2 mil using et san resultat rules.
There you go, Terras, painting 2 mil miniatures.
Oh my god! You know what? I was at Wargames Foundry. And, and I visited there, an amazingly welcoming family, and they showed me some of the painting they were doing, and they were doing it at 2 mil. That is a crazy scale, but it's amazing how much detail you can get.
Yeah, you just got to give the impression that there might be something there. It's yeah. So I'm doing Russia. So I'm going to do 1812, the Napoleon's march into Russia with the Grand Army. So I've been looking at the intro scenario that's in the rule book, which is about sort of 3 or 4 divisions each side. So it's near enough a corps each side. So I've got all the figures ordered now. They've arrived. Thank you to Irregular Miniatures. So they've all arrived. I've been sorting them all out into little bags, and I'm starting on the rest of the French. I've done about half the French already, and I got the rest there to paint up, and I'll get those based. I want to look at terrain next. How I'm going to manage to do terrain. So I think I'm going to have to be picking the brains of a few of the 2 mil gurus out there. Hello, Sid and Mark. I'm just trying to work out how to do that. So I'm thinking of trying to make it fairly modular and sort of scale down some of the 6 mil stuff for forests and have use a sort of club of foliage to represent forests and things. And I'm sort of looking at some of the buildings which are out there. I mean, because Irregular do some nice buildings, Brigade do some stuff which is probably a little bit slightly different scale, but it might work. So I just want to sort of pick their brains on what they suggest. So yeah.
Neil Hughes.
Neil.
Hello, Neil. Neil Hughes is another one worth doing because I mean he's actually been building his terrain tables, hasn't he?
And hopefully Neil's coming over to the UK next year, so we might be able to meet up at the War Games Expo, which will be fantastic.
That will be cool. Yes.
So so that's it. So it's all go. I've got all the figures now for the scenarios. Got to paint the things. But seeing I painted a whole division of cavalry in about half an hour the other day, I don't think it'll take me that long.
The joys of 2 mil painting.
So that's that.
Excellent. Cool. Well, in that case then, what we'll do, we'll take another break, and when we come back, we will be onto our feature for this show, which we will be chatting all about Adeptus Titanicus. We always love to hear from you, our listeners. You can contact us in a couple of ways. You can do that via email at mailbag@meeplesandminiatures.co.uk, or you can now leave a voicemail message for us. The number to call is 0116 318 4114. Please note, call charges may apply. Okay, so here we are, once again talking about a Games Workshop game, which is slightly unusual for this podcast, but especially when you got, mind you, when you and when you get the release of Adeptus Titanicus, which you've been waiting for a reprint for how long is it? 30 years?
Well, I did buy it back in the day, and I did play it quite a lot back in the day. So when it was announced, I was I was interested to see what they would do with it, whether they'd mess it up or not.
Okay, so just to remind people, or tell people who have no idea what we are talking about. So when you talk about Adeptus Titanicus, what do we mean?
Do you want to handle this one, Terras, or do you want me to do it?
Yeah, sure. No, that's fine. Adeptus Titanicus was an old GW game that featured Warlord Titans against Warlord Titans, and from that, they quite quickly went into ground troops, Space Marines versus Space Marines. So it took place in the Heresy. It expanded further into all sorts of Titans and all sorts of races, and became epic, and which is actually one of my favorite all-time games. It's very strange to describe without using the words epic, because it really was exactly that. It was an amazing game with lots of flanking, lots of movement, lots of able to put on a grand battles, both with infantry and with tanks and with Titans. And there could be multiple Titans on the table at one time. So you really got that heresy / 40k fluff with these huge battles. It then moved into Epic Armageddon. Base sizes changed. There was a little bit of falling out because of that, I think, and it eventually was canceled by GW around, I'm thinking 95-ish, maybe?
Might have been a
somewhere.
little bit later, I think. Yeah, I think Forgewood had it for a while, so it might have crept into the 2000s.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay, yeah. So it was there through the night. So it hasn't been that long since it's been around. But Adeptus Titanicus, I am not sure exactly the release date, but I would be very interested in it because I think it must have been in the 80s.
Yeah,
so
I think it was
right?
88, top of my head.
88. Okay.
Yeah.
So, so grand battles with big war machines, since that's what we were going to call them, not fighting robots or large robots or even mechs. But yeah, a good feel, good, very, very much. It felt good fluff-wise also. It felt like you were playing that particular army, whatever army you might be playing with. So, does that cover it?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, it was classed as sort of 6mm, but there wasn't really a 6mm at that stage. I think it was just a small scale. So the Titans were about 3 inches high. I think the old passive warlords, Titans, and it was very much a game of resource management and attritional warfare. You know, because these things took a lot of damage before they fell over. And I think when they first announced it, I think a lot of people were sort of worried that feel of the game would be lost. But no, I think they've captured it quite well in the new version. So the new version came out August
Yep.
for sure.
Yep.
It's touted at about 10mm, so the Warlord Titans have grown from about the 3 inches that they used to be up to about 8 inches high, 6-8 inches high, about that, with the weapons on top. They're big models, big expensive models, but very, very nice expensive models.
So I was going to say the original price of the starter set was eye-watering, considering at the end of the day it had, was it 2 warlords and 6 knights in it?
Yeah. So yes, exactly. It was about 200 quid, wasn't it? No, it was less than that. But yeah, it's I mean, essentially what you've got is these large fighting machines. There's 3 distinct types. You've got the Warlord, which is the biggest one. It's got the heaviest armor, the most weaponry, and it's slow. And you've then got a Reaver Titan, which is a sort of mid-range one, slightly faster, slightly less weaponry, slightly less armor. And then you've got the Baby Warhounds, which usually come in 2s. And they're quick and nimble, but still can, do a fair bit of firepower. Attached to them, you then got these things called Knights, which are sort of single-man fighting machines. They come in groups of 3. Again, very lightly armored. They won't do much damage against one of the big sort of warhounds. I suppose if you wanted to put like a naval view on it, they're sort of like the corvettes or destroyers, as opposed to the warlords being the grand battleships. So each of these classes of figure have their own sort of battlefield use, and it's up to you to find out how to use them. So essentially, you get about 5 Titans per side with some knights as well as a support. So you don't get a lot of figures. It's played on a 4x4 standard, and it is a game about resource management and damage control.
Most definitely, and it definitely is not infantry at this particular stage for sure.
No.
It's all about the big robots. War machines at this time.
Yeah.
And by the way, I don't know what measurement device you have, or if this plays to some other strange thing about your measure. I think it's more like 5 inches, is it not?
Well, the Warlord.
8 inches is a little bit too big.
Yeah, you're right. It's not 8 inches. It's about 5 to 6. So, yes.
It's the relative scale. Mike's only a small bloke.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So everything just appears relatively just a little bit bigger.
Yes.
There's so many things distance we can go with this conversation, really. But no, the model is definitely much bigger than the old Warlord, but it is definitely a Titan on Titan action game at this particular point in time.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things you get. So as well as the models. So each model you'll have a command card, or they call them the command terminal. And that basically is used it gives you all of the stats you need for it. It allows you to track, the various damage locations, because each Titan has 4 different damage locations. You've got your head, body, legs, and then all of the weaponry. And they all have their own amount of, let's call them hit points, they can take. You've, these terminals, they're basically cards, and they have a space at the bottom for you to place cards for, each of the weapon types. So, for example, a Reaver Titan has got a left arm weapon, a right arm weapon, and a carapace weapon. And you have a little deck of cards, and on each one will have a weapon type. So I might say like the Reaver arm weapon has a laser blaster, and it'll have the stats on how far it can fire, the strength of the fire, how many dice it rolls, the arc of fire, and so forth. And those are placed on the command terminal to basically give you the full load for that particular Titan. And you have one of those for each Titan you've got.
And those are quite nice, actually. The cards themselves are made out of good card stock, and they give you little markers or pegs to move about when you're taking damage and stuff. So, in that regard, it's got it's quality stuff, really.
Yeah, it's what you expect from Games Workshop, but it's yeah. So from a sort of player point of view, everything you need is in front of you, and because you've only got a limited number of figures on your side, you're not overwhelmed by loads of card and various stuff you're trying to sort of flick through. It's basically there. So
okay,
that's
so you got this. Okay, so you got the I mean, how complex is it to run multiple Titans?
Not at all, really, because the way the turn sequence is arranged, and we'll come on to that very quickly, it is literally you activate one at a time to do something. So, all you're doing is concentrating on one, and there's very specific phases in the game turn, and you basically just run through it. So, because you've got so few figures, it's pretty quick, and the way the activation works, the players are always involved. So it's not like a traditional, I go, you go, where you can sit down for half an hour, let the other opponent do everything. You're constantly involved in the game.
Yeah, it really does. I think that's one thing that they've kind of really shone back to the old days and made it even better this time, is that there is interaction. Lots of interactions.
Yeah. So, do you want to have a look at the basic rules and stuff?
Sure, let's give her.
Okay, so it's a turn-based game. Each turn is split into 5 phases, which are strategy, movement, damage control, combat, and end. So, I think we'll just concentrate on the basic rules for now. There are advanced rules which we can cover later. But essentially, in the strategy phase, all you're doing is working out who's the first player in this turn. And you do that with dice roll. And you make a dice roll, whoever rolls the highest becomes the first player and gets a little token to put on their side so they know that they're the first player. Then we have movements. So, on your command terminal, you'll have a speed and a maneuver value. The speed is basically how far that Titan can move in a phase, and the maneuver is how many 45-degree turns it can make during that movement. Now, we do need to, at this point, add in the concept of the plasma reactor, because all of these Titans have a plasma reactor. And during the turn, when you give orders, you can choose to push the reactor. So, for example, you can do a push the reactor to power to the locomotors, which means that you'll move faster. And in that case, on your command terminal, you'll have 2 speed values. So for the Reaver Titan, you've got a standard of 6. And if you push the reactor, you can move up to 9 inches. But you do that, you put a little peg in the first hole of your plasma reactor dial, tracker. So the more your plasma reactor goes up, the more chance it has of having a small incident, shall we say.
So, yeah, I think that for me is one of my favorite rules about this system, because it really gives tension all the way through the game, and it's not tension necessarily about how your opponent's going to react to you or what damage you're going to take from a volcano cannon from across the table, but more about what you're doing to your own machine. And so it does give a feel like you're in command of a big weapon, a big walking behemoth. So I really like that. And about the arcs are important. It really has that, okay, where is everybody going to end up after the turn and before my firing sequence? And that's a interesting mechanic also. Lots of strategy.
There's a lot of strategy. So what you do in the maneuver phase, the player who is the first player, as the first player's marker, activates one of his Titans, does the move he wants to do, or she wants to do, passes over to the opponent, and then he or she picks one of theirs, does the movement, and it goes back and forth until one of them runs out of something to activate, and then if the other player can then activate whatever they got left. And this is done in units, so it's usually one Titan at a time. I think Warhounds act in 2s, so you activate the 2 of them together. And then Knights are obviously in packs of 3, so you'd activate the 3 of them together, but they would move as a pack, shall we say. So, like I say, it's not aggro-yugo, it's very much alternative action for the movement. So you do that. If you bump into things, like other Titans or buildings, some damage could occur. But we'll come on to that later. Right, so third phase after movement is damage control. So what you do, like I said, you've got reactors, which you can push. You also then got void shields. So each Titan will have a number of shields. And obviously then for each of the hit locations, you can try and repair those. And the way you do it is, first of all, you check for reactor overloads. So when you've gone so far in your reactor tracker, you have to make a roll. And in the standard rules, you basically just make a roll to see if you take damage. And if you do, you basically take a pile of damage to one part of the body. In the advanced rules, there's a plasma reactor overload table, which has got things like, reactor housing damage all the way through to catastrophic meltdown. Which, as you can guess, is lovely. So you first of all,
is that completely random, or is that dependent on how far you've pushed the reactor will actually affect that roll?
It's random, but there are additions to the rolls that you make. The higher up you've gone, the more chance you've got of doing if it's in the overload.
Yeah, exactly. It definitely affects your rolls if you've pushed your machine too far.
Yeah. So once you've checked to see whether you've blown up or not, you then make repair rolls, and this is quite a nice little system because you have again on your Titan terminal, you have what is called a Servitor Cades, which is a number, and that number is basically equates to the number of sort of automated systems you've got to do damage repair, which equates to rolling a dice for each number. So, again, for our friendly Reaver Titan, they got a value of 3, which means that they would make 3 repair rolls. And what you do is you roll, in this case, 3d6, and then you look at the numbers that you rolled, and then you decide what actions you want to take. And there's various repair actions. So you can try and repair a disabled weapon. So when a weapon is damaged, it's flipped over, and it has a value that you need, a value on the d6 you need to get to actually repair it. So for a laser blaster, it's a 4+. So if one of your 3 dice that you rolled is a 4, you could repair that disabled weapon, flip it up, you can then use it. You can either do that, or you can vent plasma, which is a 4+, which decreases your reactor level by 1. You can raise void shields, 5 or 6, which allows you to get your shields back up, and we'll come onto shields a bit more in the combat. Or you can try and repair some critical damage. And this is something we haven't really covered, so it's worth covering now because, as I say, there's various trackers for hit locations. So there's 4 hit locations: head, body, legs, and weapons. Discounting weapons for now. Head, body, and legs have a number of hit points. So as you take damage, you put a tracker marker into each of these, and as it goes up, when it reaches the end of its tracker, it then goes into a critical phase, and there's a 3-tier critical level of yellow, orange, and red. And as you take critical damage, you start off on a yellow damage, then it goes to orange, and then to red. Red is obviously normally pretty bad, so what you want to try and do is use your damage repairs to try and repair that damage by moving it down, or trying to get the tracker to actually get out of the critical area, shall we say. So repairing damage is very important in this game. It's a real attritional game of trying to repair the damage that you do whilst kicking out as much damage to your opponents. So that's the damage control phase, and then we have combat. And Terras, I've been chatting. Do you want to chat about combat?
I'll follow your lead, but I would like to talk about the critical hit thing about.
Yeah, go for it.
I think that what it really does is gives you a balancing factor, but also gives you kind of a life to the mech. You're always worrying about whether you've got your cannons are okay, your plasma reactor's okay. You're always looking at your chart. So I think that what that's gives you during gameplay is this cool feeling that you're driving. Well, you looked at the miniatures, you know where you are miniature-wise. Your table looks awesome. You got terrain. You got beautiful painted models, and then you look down at your HUD. So I think that all these factors really bring things together. So, and combat resolution also really has that mechanism of what's firing next and how things work. That. So you go ahead, and I'll just follow your lead.
Okay, and again, with the damage control phase, you're doing the same process. You're going through Titan by Titan, trying to repair it as you go on, player by player. So combat phase, similar thing. Whoever's got the first player token activates the Titan, and then goes to the combat sequence. And combat sequence is, again, it's quite nice. So first of all, you select your target. So you can only attack one target. So even though you've got multiple weapons, you can only attack one target. You then declare the weapons you're going to use to attack. Now, most Titans will have 3 different types of weaponry. You can use all of them if you think you're in range, or you can use just 1 or 2. So you declare the weapons you have, because, as I say, each weapon has got a short range and a long range value, which is in inches. Once you've declared the weapon range, you then check that you're in arc of fire, and then you measure. And if you've guessed the range wrongly, you don't shoot.
Right. So we're back. Sorry to interject here, but we're back to not measuring distances.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is contrary to current 40K.
Yep, you have to sort of work out whether you think you can hit before you actually measure the arc. I mean, the arc is normally pretty straightforward. It's usually like a 90-degree arc on the front and sides. But yeah, it is that measurement afterwards. So,
yeah.
And
you don't know. That's why I like it like that.
Yeah.
A lot of people hate that they can't pre-measure or anything like that. But for me, that just gives a new adventure to the tabletop when you don't know. Okay, am I within? Did I get it there? It creates so much more cool tension because it just allows you to say, I don't know for sure. And then only when you measure do you get it. So the measuring is an adventure. So I like that they brought that back. I think it really works for this game for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So then once you've done that, you then make the hit rolls and then you resolve it. So the hit rolls, it's a standard sort of GW format. You've got a ballistic skill, which is the value you need to roll on a D6. And each weaponry will have a number of dice that it rolls. So, for example, the good old-fashioned laser blaster has a range of 16 inches. There's short range, long range 32. And it rolls 3 dice. And the ballistic skill is 3. So you roll 3 dice looking for a 3+. If you're at long range, you need 4+. So you roll those. You do a little bit of jigging around to see whether something's obscured or not. If it is, and you've scored the hits, you then basically go for the resolution. This is where shields come in. So say, for example, I fired my laser blaster and I scored two hits. If a Titan's got shields up, the hits come off the shields first, and target Titan basically rolls a d6 for each dice, for each hit that's taken, and it compares it to the void shield level. And the more void shields you've got, the easier the roll is. So, again, looking at the Reaver, because that's obviously the shit I got in front of me. If I haven't taken any damage, I would be rolling off the first void shield hit on a 3+. If I've taken some damage, I need a 4+. If I get to the end, I basically can't get rid of it. So you're trying to run down shields first before you can do any damage to the bodywork, shall we say, of a Titan. So what you want to try and do is hit the Titans with lots of quick fire weaponry, which roll a lot of dice to try and get the shields down. And then once you've done that, you want to be hitting the unprotected Titan with your heavier weaponry. So this is where your sort of support troops come in, because those are the ones you want to try and get the shields down. Once the shields are down, you're doing this.
I'd like to interject that because I think it's important that you mentioned it before, but you can throughout I think it's every phase. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think every phase, shooting, shields, damage resolution, the whole bit, you can go more power to the whatever. Oh, basically. Yeah. Right, so you can go more power to the shields or more power to the weapons, and so each phase, keep that in mind that each phase has that. So as Mr. Hobbs goes through the rules, everything can be altered that way, and it means that you're pushing your reactor no matter what you're doing. I think does it always push the reactor no matter what you do?
Yeah. I
think it does, right?
Yeah.
Right. Each time you do something special, it pushes the reactor. But you can push the reactor for almost everything. So, like I said, weapons or shields. So it does affect things, but it's also another cool mechanic that alters combat and alters defense at the same time.
Yeah, the plasma reactor is very much of a resource management tool. It's like you've got so many points of reactor power that you can use, and it's when you use it. And remember, you've only been able to roll off or reduce the plasma reactor level once per turn. and you've only got a limited number of repair dice. So you've got to sort of judge when you use it and try and use it to its best to its best effect.
And you really don't want your reactor to blow up.
No, because that is quite bad. yeah. Things happen. It's not good. When shields are down, you're doing a similar thing, but you're doing the damage to the body. So each time you do a hit, what you do, you work out the location of where the hit has gone into, and there's a funky little location dice for that, which you roll, and it'll tell you head, body, or legs. It's the same thing. Have I hit? Do a save. If I haven't saved, take that number of damage points and mark it off your damage tracker. You're also doing things like for each roll, you're adding extra points on to see the actual damage effect, shall we say.
All right, so you've got physical armor as well as shields.
So you've got shields, and then you've got, like you say, you can do something like a direct hit, which loses you 1 structural point. When you get to none, you then go into a critical damage instead. You can do a devastating hit, where you get, loses 2 structural points, and might cause you a critical damage. And then you got a critical hit, so when you take a critical hit, you take another 2 structural points, and you take a critical damage point as well. So again, it's roll to see where you hit. It's roll to see what the effect of the hit is. You're rolling dice for all of that to work out the values. The higher the value is, the more structural points you lose. As you start losing structural points, it's attritional. It's things happen, and as you start taking critical damage, you get things like reactor leaks. So your reactor level is going to go up again, or your stabilizers might be damaged, or some of your crew might be wounded, which is going to have an effect on how it goes on. So there's lots of little sub effects which can take place during this whole phase.
Yeah.
Which again adds to that whole flavor of actually driving this thing, because you have like lights going off everywhere, steam coming in, somebody shouting up, the core is about to blow. You really have that whole vibe going on.
Yeah.
It's exactly like that. I swear that you could have a Scottish accent and play this game even more. It would be even more fun now.
Yeah. and again, you're doing this, sort of phase by phase. You're activating one of your Titans, your opponent's activating one of theirs. You're going back and forth, so you're always in. You're always in the turn. Okay, and then the final one is the end phase, where you basically just see whether you've actually.
And I think the you go, I go type of method really shines through this game. I think it's very interesting. Did you take a look inside the book? Because it actually says it's published by Forged World, so I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, it's because it's Horus Heresy. I think Forged World have got the GW license for Horus Heresy, so it's done through them.
Yeah.
So I was going to check something on the activation mechanics. So it doesn't work. So does it work like, say, for example, something like X-Wing, for example? So obviously you have movement, and then you have so the movement phase. You activate in a certain order. Are you tied into that same order during your battle phase?
Nope.
Your combat phase.
No,
oh, right. Okay. So
choose exactly when you want to activate them. Only thing is you can't pass. Is that a Canadian cricket there, Terras?
Yes, it was a Canadian cricket. Oh my God! Thank God that was close to me. My crickets went off, and I had to silence them. Oh.
There we go. I think we can very quickly cover some of the advanced rules.
Yeah, let's do that.
So advanced rules, we've got things like stratagem and orders. They're the main two. So stratagems, these are cards that you get. In a scenario, it'll tell you how many stratagems you can take, and it's basically their card effects. So you might have one. Let's have a look. Battlefield asset, void shield relay. Failed void shield saves can be re-rolled for units that are within 2 inches of a friendly void shield relay. So these are battlefield assets. So these are when you set the table up, you've got these sort of stratagem points. They're little markers, shall we say, that you can place on the board. And if you're close to those, then you can use some of those assets to give you an abilities or give you a bonus. There's ones for let's have a look. Range support, blind barrage, once per battle. Play this during the strategy phase. Pick a unit on the battlefield. Any attacks that target it will suffer -2 to hit penalty. So, again, more resources. These are things you hold in your hand. You can use them during the strategy phase, which is the first phase. So, first phase of the turn, you say, right, I'm playing this stratagem. So, you got those.
Gives a little bit more life to the whole thing too. Again, right?
So, yeah. You then got orders as well. So, again, during the strategy phase, you got order dice, and the order dice have got 6 different orders on them. Funnily enough, because it's a D6, and you basically take these dice and you place the order you want to give to that item on to the Titan's sheet. Which means that, so for example, you've got things like emergency repair, Spitfire, so you can't make any turns, but you can, target different, different targets for each of the weapons on the Titan. You can fire first, you can move faster, you can charge, you can shut down and try and repair everything. So again, this is getting away from the acting reactively during the turn as you do in the basic game to being slightly more proactive and trying to make a battle plan in the first phase of what you want that each of your Titans to do. You do that by putting these little dice down on top of the sheets. We got that.
Okay, so when you do that, is it a case that you say, right, okay, I want to perform them in a particular order?
No. You've still got choice of when you activate them, but instead of just deciding on the fly what you're going to do, you basically got an order that you carry out.
Okay, cool.
Which, they give you bonuses. So, for example, like I say, if you do the Spitfire, it means that you can't move during the movement phase, but you can target multiple enemies instead of just targeting one. There's one for full stride. So you can't attack in the combat phase, but you can move, you can make extra move. So it allows you to do a little flanking attack, maybe.
And again, it means a lot because you got to remember there's arcs and there's also movement, and so those two coupled together with these available orders, then that means that you still don't know where, and you got to measure, of course, your distances. So you don't know where you're going to end up. It's kind of, in a way, it's kind of like X-Wing, that that unknown factor of X-Wing, like where is everybody going to be?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's really, it has that feel too.
Yeah, and there's lots of other little rules in there. So you got rules for using knights because they operate in a little squadron on their own, and so forth. As you would expect, there's optional rules for stray shot power transfer, so you can sort of transfer power from other parts of the Titan into your core. You can blow up terrain.
Yeah, which is, I think, my favorite of those ones.
Yeah.
Is that you can moving terrain is always awesome. I think that's so evocative of this whole game. Is that you're basically running through buildings, crash supposed to be ultra big, right? So I think they've covered that. I think that's a good thing. Because it's always supposed to take place in the city, it seems. So you're always crashing through a building or something. And that's a good option, a good rule there, I think.
Yeah, and you got things like you can add personal traits on. So I think this is where we start getting into the whole RPG style of play. So your sort of senior leader, shall we call him, your precept, you can give him a sort of trait, and that trait can again be used to give an advantage during the turn or during the game. So it's having a little bit of,
personalization.
Yeah, personalization.
Yeah.
That was the word I was driving for.
That was the word I was. Wow, I got it. I think this is where, for me, the rules break down just a little bit. I like it. I like the rules. I think they produce an awesome game. I think the miniatures are great. I think everything about it is quality. But again, as I mentioned earlier, I'm really into that RPG thing, and I think that since it's a Titan on Titan game, I was actually really surprised that there was no campaign, build your Titan up type of give him experience, name him or her for that matter, and just make it so you personalize your Titan a little bit. Give him an extra flag because he killed 5 guys or something like that, and then each game you have more invested in your Titan. And I think GW, perhaps that's coming, but if it's not, GW really lost out. I think they missed something that could have made this game just that much better. I think it's a great game. Don't get me wrong, but I think that they could have made it better with that. And I think I would play it more because it does have that RPG thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think I think that would be good. It'd probably be quite an easy fit as well. Just by giving a few bonuses and you maybe giving those sort of stratagems.
I agree. More orders or more ability to do orders. Maybe give a couple dice there. There's so many ways to add flavor to this game. Like you could say he's always he can do power to the void shields without penalty once a game or something like that. So many things that you could add in order to do that, to give it an RPG feel. But you could also make it so just the warlords gain experience and the other guys are just there to the warlord might be able to transfer some sort of power to the other titans, but you wouldn't have to make it super complex. You could make it just as the warlords do it, and then it would be up to each character to keep track of his or her traits. And I think that you would just have this. That's what I'm going for on the table now. Like I was mentioning before, is you put your miniature down on the table and you're like, oh my god, I hope I don't die this game.
Yeah,
that's a great feeling. That's for me, that's the ultimate feeling in miniature wargaming. So.
Yeah, and I mean the thing that's also a little bit different is the number of dice, because it's mostly a D6 game. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But there are some D10s in there, and sometimes you are rolling D10s for sort of damage rolls. Some of the rules are even calling for D100.
Yeah, that makes me smile.
Yeah,
it really does. It really does. I mean, wow, it came back to that whole D6 thing again. But when you just add one other die into the game, it just makes it feel good. And yeah, that does make me smile. As soon as I saw that when I opened up the box set that they sent, I was like, oh, there's a D10 in here. You know what I mean? Like, it just really does make me smile. It does.
Cool. So we covered a lot about the rules. However, obviously one of the major factors with all this are the models themselves and how they've changed since the initial implementation of the game. I mean, I remember having having some of the original plastic warlords and a couple of metal reavers or what have you. So, what's changed with the models? Why, because I mean, I know people have been raving about them. What makes them so different to what they used to be?
They've grown up, Neil.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they sure have. Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I pulled out some of my old Epic stuff and I put some of it beside it. First of all, they do look monstrous compared to the other ones, but in a completely good way. You know, for me personally, I don't know if you're an old guy and you're like, I don't know if I really want to kind of make the transition from that old game. I love my old Epic. I love all those miniatures, and now I have to buy all new stuff. No, you get to buy all this new stuff. It's awesome. The model itself, the Warlord Titan, is a pleasure to put together. It's a kit that takes time to put together. It looks incredible, and it's way more evocative than the old models, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. This is like by Forge World. Forge World have produced 40k versions of all the Titans, and those designs have been ported into Adeptus Titanicus, so they're exactly the same designs. So the sculptor who's doing the CAD work in this version of Adeptus Titanicus has obviously had access to the Forge World designs because he works in the same company, and has basically ported those in. So they're not completely different because the models the Forge World produced were sort of inspired by the original Titans. They're definitely a lot bigger, which is always good. But if you got the old Titans, you can actually play this game using your old plastic Titans quite easily.
Yeah. I don't think, as long as everybody's on the same scale, I don't think that would be a problem whatsoever. You're right, for sure. I don't know. For me, I don't know if I would want to because this model is so big, but you definitely could. Yeah. And that's actually good for old players. That's a really good point, actually. You don't need to transition away if you don't want to. Get the rules and have at it. Plus, they're probably all painted sitting in your closet collecting dust anyway. Why not pull them out?
Oh, in my case, they're not quite all painted yet.
Okay. Fair enough.
Some of the plastic ones are still mint condition in their original box.
Mint condition.
Oh, most definitely.
Are they still in the plastic?
No.
Oh, well, you just had to pull out some reefers out of the plastic, so I'm just wondering.
No, but I still have a few warlords I haven't painted. I may have a few warhounds I haven't painted yet.
And there's nothing wrong with those old models, for sure. I just think that once you see the Warlord Titan in its glory right in front of you, you're like, oh, I see. Okay, I do like what they did with the miniature. Now, but however, that's okay. I mean, how many versions of Epic are there, right? So, and we can transfer the models all the way across. So why not? It's just a matter of scale and a matter of dusting them off and putting them on the table. Would you change the size of the board if you did that? Do you think?
I think it probably work quite well. I mean, the game's only played on a 4x4. I probably play on a 6x4, to be honest with you. Just have the more space. But I think you probably drop these in. I think you can do Horus Heresy. Just using the Net Epic rules or Epic Armageddon. Right. I would be quite tempted to use these Titans actually in there because I think they're scale wise. They kind of work with the original sort of 6mm figures. They sort of look like proper big Titans.
I think I'm going to take a couple pictures. I'm almost done my Titan. I just have to finish the base. I actually used Epic Armageddon rune buildings on the base because I think that those ones looked really well, fairly good with at the feet of the Warlord. And so I'm going to paint it, finish it up, and then I'm going to take some photos of the Titan with the old Epic infantry bases by him, just because I think it could be a cool picture.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with the later Epic figures, because they were a little bit bigger. So they're probably fitting quite nicely.
Yeah, I think you're right. And they are a little bit bigger, right? I thought it's going to be really interesting what they mean by, what do they say? It's 9mm? Don't they say it's 9mm?
Yeah, it's sort of 9.
Nine is their thing, right?
Mm.
So who's 9mm if they do infantry? Like, is 9mm a Space Marine, or is 9mm? Because then it would be 6 for an Imperial Guards.
This could be a long conversation,
right? Exactly. Like, what is that? What does 9 mean? I don't know what it means. It can mean almost anything, really.
Yeah.
So that's. I think that is. It's good to have it back. It really is. I think that there's a lot of players out there that will. I hope that they continue to. Do you guys think that they're going to go infantry and all that other jazz eventually, or?
I don't know. I'm really not sure. I think they might do, because they're definitely setting this in the Heresy. Horus Heresy. Yeah. So Horus Heresy was always good because it's just human on human.
Right.
So it means that I don't think we're ever going to see a new version of Epic come out, but they might, if the sales go well, maybe they will do some, Space Marine armies to go with it.
I think they might. Neil, what do you think?
Well, as I say, originally it was because Adeptus Titanicus led on to Space Marine, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, originally. Basically, looking at the way Games Workshop have been going with, but revisiting their old catalogue, shall we say, over the last year, 18 months or so, and as I say, we're looking at some of the releases that we are seeing coming out, and some of the games they're dragging back out as specialist publishing. It wouldn't surprise me. At the same time, there's always this thing of, well, hang on a second, if you wanted to play, Space Marines, there is a game that already exists for that. I mean, I know this is a completely different scale.
You're right.
But yeah, so there is a thing to be said to say, well, actually, let's just leave it as Titans versus Titans. Yeah, there's always this kind of desire to make things bigger and expand. So let's add tanks. Let's add Space Marines. Let's make it a big battle.
Yeah.
Whereas actually there is something to be said for limiting the game, so it is just Titans versus Titans. So it keeps its own identity without suddenly morphing into, well, actually at the end of the day it's just a small scale version of 40k, but because it's smaller scale you get to play with some bigger stuff. Because the problem I foresee, especially with what you've been talking about, and I can't remember how they dealt with this in the original rules, but didn't activation and everything change at the point where Space Marine happened? Because all of a sudden you couldn't keep the same activation mechanics once you started including infantry and tanks.
No, I think in the original, the first time the tanks and vehicles arrived was in a book called Codex Titanicus.
Yeah.
And I think that was a bolt-on to the original one, which used the same activation mechanic. We then had the very first version of Space Marine, which was basically just a reworking of those rules, and they basically put Adeptus Titanicus, Codex Titanicus, with a bunch of sprues into a box as those rules. It was only when the second edition Space Marine came out that the rules changed around, and I think that's when they went to the order tokens. I think, but my memory could be hazy because it was
a long time ago.
It was a long time ago, and I've drunk an awful lot of beer in those days. Yeah, since those times.
Yeah. So I think it's a case of, if you've got a game that's kind of got its own identity, and they have gone as far as, they have changed it so it's no longer I go, you go, So from that side of things, it's a lot more, for want of a better phrase, modern. To then integrate that with infantry and tanks, if they do it, I don't think they can afford then to morph the rules in order to cater for that. I think it's as long as they can keep everything within that, within the mechanic structure that they've designed around Adeptus Titanicus, then I think it will be fine because the game, because the game has its own identity. At the point where you turn around and say, okay, let's add tanks and infantry, but that then fundamentally changes the game, I think that's where you get the problem.
Yeah, I think they could probably do it, because they've got the concept already of having support squadrons, because that's what they're doing knights, and you activate they're called maniples, aren't they? Of 3 knights. So, I could imagine them having, like a group of infantry and tanks together as a single support option, which you then move together as one. So you'd activate all of those together, almost like a little company, and they go and do something. And then, it's keeping the same mechanic, it's keeping the same turn sequence. But obviously there's phases in the game which are only applicable to Titans. So I don't know what would happen with those, those new types of units, whether they do something similar or not.
I think you can make it so they support the Warlord Titan.
Yeah,
because I think even Epic Armageddon has that whole support another unit type of rule also. I think you can do that. I think there's a couple things that make me think that they are going to go further. First of all, when you look at the buildings, the actual intact buildings, there looks like there's a pretty good spot to put a square base on top of those buildings. To me. But I think more importantly is that they released the game, and then we already have, and that was August, right? And then we already have the Knights, the Warlord, the Reaver, and I'm sure the Hounds are coming shortly too. So we've already got them. They've already released everything. Like, what else would they release for the game? Like, if there was just going to be Titans on Titans, then I would have thought that they would have kept those releases a little bit prolonged. Like, even maybe the Reaver next summer or something like that. You know what I mean? Just to give people a little bit of, keep people occupied in the game itself. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see which way they go. I think that they have designed a great one-off game. I think it's an excellent substitute or revamping of Adeptus Titanicus. It's not epic, but it is definitely Adeptus Titanicus, and I think that that's a great start. I think that you will have the feel like you're striding forth in a Warlord Titan. It just it has the right flow. It has the right mechanisms to do that, and it feels right. It really does. And once they give you more loadouts and different weapons to put on, that is the one thing that I'm a little bit worried about, because this model was an excellent model to put together. The weapon arms in particular were good. They even, on the community page, they even told you what magnets to use on the weapons. So I thought that, and the weapons actually have a place where you could put a magnet. Like, it's actually modeled into it. So I thought that was really nice. Yeah. Like, actually put your magnet here type of thing. Yeah. And so that was pretty cool. And I think pretty innovative departure from GW. I'm just wondering how they're going to sell the next weapons, because you do have to attach the arm bit to the weapon bit because it rotates. So you can't really magnetize that portion. So they'll have to sell the arm bit and the weapon. And I hope they do that. I think people will be happier if they sell both the arm bit and the weapon at the same time, so people don't have this one missing piece.
If you look at the sprues, the arm pieces were on the weapon sprue, so I think it'd be quite simple.
Right.
Like you say, it depends if they're going to be doing resin weapons via Forge World, or whether they're going to do sprues of plastic weapons.
Right.
It's stuff we don't know yet. But,
Yeah.
It'll definitely be interesting.
And the model is great, and the rules are sound. The rules are fun. The rules are back and forth. You're always occupied with the rules. Both players are occupied with the rules. You have the control panel that gives you like you're on the bridge, and meanwhile Scotty is down below screaming at you to don't push the engine so hard.
The reactor cannot take it, Captain.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
I like my best Brummy accent.
That's right. It'll take me 7 days to fix this reactor when we get it back home. So yeah, I think kind of a score all the way around. It's just that it'll be interesting to see. I think it's sold well. Have you guys heard anything about that or any news about that?
Yeah, I think it's sold very well.
So that gives me hope that there might be infantry. I'd like there to be infantry. I think it would be.
Yeah, because wasn't the first box set kind of a premium box set at a set price, and then that's not going to be repeated. Then not releasing that particular box until next year.
Yep,
is that what?
That's
like that?
correct. So. What they've got out now, I mean, like you say, the big box set, which I think myself and Terras got, that came with everything you need: the books, all the templates, the tokens, 2 Warlord Titans, 6 Knights, a metric ton of buildings, and so it was well stuffed with plastic. Yeah. But now those are gone. You buy the rules set, which in the UK is £35, obviously discounts from various suppliers. That gives you basically the stuff that was in the box set. So you get the hardback rule book, you get a bunch of command terminals, you get the stratagem cards, you get the weapon cards, you get dice, you get templates for weapons effects, you get the stratagem markers, a ruler, and all sorts of stuff. Basically, everything you need to play the game is in that box, and that's £35. And then on top of that, I could say the Warlord was 65 or 75. It was 65. But that is a big kit.
I was going to say it's a hefty amount. It's a hefty amount of money for a single miniature.
It is, yeah. It's a big miniature. The Reaver is 35 each. I think the Warhounds, when they come out, I've heard rumours they're going to be 35 for 2 or 40 for 2. The Knights are 20 for 3. So, like you say, on top of that, they're also doing sort of extra packs of command terminals that you can buy, and extra weapon cards and all that sort of stuff.
So what do they recommend as a kind of a standard force loadout then? So it's the case of really you only have one Warlord, and then that's supported by.
I don't know if they really do. Do they?
No.
I think it's like whatever you want to play. I think it's really is a Warlord on Warlord all the way up to a whole bunch of magicals where there's 2 Warlords, 3 Reavers, and 2 Hounds and 6 Knights. I think that they're really. I don't think they really had a. This is the one you should be playing or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously on a point system, but in the book they've got some what they call maniples, which are sort of 5 Titan units. So they got one like here we go, the Axiom Battle Line Maniple, which is 1 Warlord, 2 Reavers, and 2 Warhounds. And if you play that, you actually get a trait that you can use. So it's a rule you can use for having that particular formation. And, they've got a couple of, I think they've got 1, 2, 3. They got 3 of those in the book. So I can see them sort of releasing other sort of versions of that that sort of loadout, suggested loadout. That you can. I think they've done a similar thing actually with the new Lord of the Rings game, where if you use troops from one nation, you get a specific rule for them. So they're doing something like to try and not force you down, but give you an advantage if you use this particular format of troops. But obviously, again, it's all pointed up. So you have points for your basic, your basic Titan, and then you have points for the weaponry that you put on top of that. So you get a bit of extra stuff, and plus you can buy stratagems, you can buy extra stuff as well. You can add to your force.
Yeah, I think that their light maniples I thought was really interesting, where there's no warlord. There's just a reaver and 4 hounds. I think that really kind of gives you the ability to say, you know what, okay, I'd rather just have a whole bunch of little guys, So I think that there's enough variety to give you a kind of a cool thing. About tournament play, I think that would be a lot of fun. You'd go and you wouldn't know what maniple you're gonna be facing. So I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and there's loads of scenarios in the book. They obviously got the rules for. They got narrative play scenarios, sort of based on particular battles from their history. They've got a tournament style for match play. And how you actually sort of get objectives that you want to capture. They give you victory points. So sometimes it might be good to take on the big heavy maniple with the multiple warlords. Other times, go light and run around and capture all the objectives and win the battle that way. It's quite nicely done. There's different ways of setting up the games. And there's lots of info. It's a very pretty book, which I do like.
It is. I would have liked to see a little bit more art.
Yeah, but it's nice to have a hardback book with a nice ribbon in it.
It is.
I like a ribbon in the book, Neil.
Okay, so you're sold on the game because it's a hardback book with a ribbon in it.
Yep.
Okay, fine. Easy, please. Yeah. So definite thumbs up from the both of you for that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yep, I would give it a thumbs up.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to playing it because it just reading through the rules, you think, this is going to be interesting. It's going to be. It's a proper sort of resource management style game, which I do like.
And you've had fun painting, yeah? And it's not something that you think, because these models are so big, I've got to use an airbrush on it.
Yeah, but I don't have an airbrush, so I definitely need one. No, they painted fine with a brush. They painted lovely with an airbrush on the armor. But they paint it well. They're fairly simple to paint. Most of it is, your basic sort of superstructure is a few shades and a few washes, and then you spend your time doing all the armor. And there's lots of armor on them, and you can go to town on that. So yeah, lovely to paint. I really enjoy painting mine up.
I mean, it certainly does lend to some cool paint jobs. It's got a nice feel. It's a pleasure to paint it. It was a pleasure to build it. I painted a lot of it on the sprue, and then cut it up and built it, and then fixed it up, and it really came alive that way. And if you base it really cool, I think the table will look awesome. I really do.
Okay, are we done with Adeptus Titanicus?
I think we are.
I would agree.
Cool.
It's very good. Go and buy it.
Fantastic. Except you have to buy it all in bits until early next year, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not a bad thing though.
Cool. Well, and there we have it for another show. So, Adeptus Titanicus, yes, available at all good friendly local game stores.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm tempted or not. It sounds really interesting, but I think I'm going to have to kind of. I think it's going to be a case of when we next get together, Mr. Hobbs. At some point, you'll have to. You'll have to take me through it, and then I will see whether I am. I am converted or not.
Okay, I shall do that for you, mate.
Okay, cool. Right, well, in that case then, I think all that remains to be said is, first off, a huge thank you to Terras for joining us for this show. It's been fantastic to have you as a guest presenter.
It was always a pleasure to hang out with you guys and talk with you guys about cool gaming and miniatures. It was a pleasure, my pleasure for sure.
No, it's been fantastic to have you, mate, and we look forward to having you back on the show at some point.
Just give me a shout. I'll be happy to come.
If you want to come back,
I'd be happy.
That would be fantastic. And so we want to wish you all the very best with as you continue to grow Geek Nation. Look forward to seeing all these extra bits and pieces that you've teased us with, and these new tours that you've got planned. So looking forward to that. And then I was going to say, have we got a what's Dave bought this week? But
yes,
you know what?
The Anti-Luff.
You know what? I don't think we have.
Oh dear.
Oh no! I tell a lie. I tell one lie, and that is the fact of his Freya's Wrath Kickstarter turned up.
Yay!
Indeed, and have a guess. He bought everything.
Good man, Dave.
Wow. No half measures.
No half measures. There was a pledge which kind of basically went, okay, one of every female Viking miniature that Bad Squealo do. And he went, yeah, I'll have one of them. So,
I hope it comes to him in lightning speed.
Well, as I say, it arrived this week. I am told that he has not. So, how many miniatures are there? I haven't counted yet. Quote unquote. So he hasn't even opened all the bags. Isn't that just terrible?
That's terrible.
When you get something, you buy something, and what do? Do you open it? Do you have a look? Do you take a feel? Yeah. Do you run your hands over the miniatures, or do you just pack it away? I mean, how bad is that?
Time to go on, Neil.
I don't know. I think Mr. Hobbs. We proved the point with Mr. Hobbs earlier today.
Time to go. Let's wrap it up.
Move along. Nothing to see here.
Move along.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Cool. Well, so thank you once again to our resident Welsh wizard for joining us for the show. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Neil. It's been lovely again.
Indeed. It's great to always great to chat about gaming. So we hope you've enjoyed the show. We hope you found it useful and informative. And until next time, take care. Happy gaming. We'll chat to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, why not share it with others by leaving us a review on iTunes? And if you have any comments or questions, you can always email the show. The address is info@meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. And you can also visit our webpage, where you'll find a complete episode archive, all the View from the Veranda podcasts, rules reviews, and our blog of hobby items and news, which is updated several times a week. This is also where you'll find the links to our presence on social media, and here you can follow us on Twitter or join our Facebook group. And finally, here you can also find details should you wish to support us by making a donation to the podcast. All this on the Meeples and Miniatures website, www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 3.0 Unported license. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.